Welcome to lecture 56. In this lecture we are going to discuss time management. You know that in this last week we are discussing some useful tools and techniques which will help your performance at your personal level. We have discussed decision making, problem solving, negotiation skills, communication skills, and today we are going to discuss another very important aspect which influences your personal performance, that is time management. Under this lecture we will have discussions on why time management is required, the significance, then how we can structure and classify the time, and then how we can make a time priority through a matrix, and how we can practice and follow up about of the time management principles. Now, you know that time is a limited resource, and it is same for each of us. All of us have 24 hours time in a day, and therefore, time is a limited resource, and the use in a meaningful way of the time influences our productivity and also the outcome of our life and job. So, therefore, time management and using time in a meaningful way is very important. Therefore, the first very important point what you should keep in your mind is that time is constant and it is a limited resource and it is not to be wasted. Then second very important phenomenon which makes the time management very much relevant in current context is that the complex and demanding job situation. The job situations what was there in the past and today's world, due to growth of technology and communications, the job situations have become much more complex. The particular subject we are discussing in this course, that urban governance, the subject of urban governance and administration, it was not same 30 years back, which we are talking and we are expecting from the urban managers in today's context. The expectation from the city managers in today's context is much more than what was there in earlier, and therefore, there are much more expectation, many conflicting situation, many involvement of the various types of jobs, and as a result of that the complex and demanding job situations are making time management very much crucial and significant. Third is that the work home balance, because your job situation is complex and demanding, your time involvement with the home is becoming less and less, and the moment it is becoming lesser, your support group, which is your family, which is suffering, and as a result of that at the end of the day you are also suffering because of the lack of time management, and also you are stressed, you cannot make a balance between work and home. Therefore, it is very important to bring a balance, to maintain a balance between work and home. And then slowly we are seeing that socially, from a larger family or a joint family, we are going towards a nuclear family, where in most of the cases the urban situation, the parents are working in the office and children's are number of children are less, maybe 1 or 2, and as a matter of fact the time is very much precious to them, because after spending time to their office, to the job situation and then family, very few amount of additional time or extra time is remaining for them to spend with the family or for the vacation. So, nuclear family is also another very important pattern which makes time management very much crucial, and more expectation due to faster communication. Nowadays, we communicate through email, through faxes, through various faster communication, telephone is also there. In earlier times, we have seen that we used to communicate through telegram and other messages, telephone was there, but the expectation of the response in job situations were different. Nowadays, we expect a response of a official communication maybe within an hour or within few minutes. So, those kind of expectation which has enhanced or changed drastically in last few decades because of the faster communication, especially the electronic communications. Nowadays, we do not wait for the hard copy of any official communications. We always communicate through emails, and the reaction time or response time has been much smaller than the earlier time. So, therefore, all these factors make the time management very much crucial. So, now having said that, I hope that whatever I have said, you all of us, we are experiencing that in everyday life. Now, how you are going to distribute and use your time? If I ask this question, how you distribute your time of 24 hours in terms of your sleeping time, your family time, your office time, or absolutely your personal time? Can you make a statement, or can you make a structure? Can you make a can you classify what kind of time activity you have, what you are using? So, that is what we are going to discuss, that what could be a ideal or a standard kind of time structuring. So, in the components of the time management, first we identify the job and task, what kind of jobs and tasks are required at your office level or at the family or at your society. We try to classify and structure those activity, so that based on the classification and structures we can distribute, and when we distribute the activities as per the time, we make them prioritized. So, priority setting is important, and then we follow up and practice. So, this is broadly the stages of the time management principles. Now, let us see what kind of classification and structuring can be done. Now, in some of the lecture we discussed communication skill, and in the communication skill we discussed the concept of ego status by Eric Berne. By the same author or same scholar, another concept was given regarding the time structuring. So, Eric Berne, he told that all of us, we communicate through 3 ego status, as you know that we represent it through P, A and C, which is basically the parent ego status, adult and child, and he is saying that based on these, how we utilize our time, it basically based on the extent of intimacy and extent of privateness. So, we start the interactions in this way. Let us see some chart. So, first is the withdrawal as per Eric Berne, where basically we are not interacting with others. So, is it basically, it is basically no interaction. Second is the rituals, where we make familiar social interactions like good wishes or making shaking hands, all these are social rituals we do. These rituals are different in different countries, different geographical variations. Third is the pastimes, which is talking but no action. Sometimes we talk in telephone, sometimes we spend time in social media, sometimes we chat with each other. So, these are pastimes, but definitely no action, no outcome is there. So, basically in rituals and pastime there is no outcome in terms of job, but basically we socialize through these rituals and pastimes. And fourth is the activity where we direct our energy towards a definite outcome. Mostly whenever we work in the office or we do something in our home, we are involved, we involve ourselves in this mode of activity, and it takes a significant amount of time in everyday schedule. Fifth is the games, is a psychological games which is basically a transaction earlier we discussed in this lecture of communication that transaction are 3 types. One is complementary, I request you to recall complementary, B is crossed and C is ulterior. And we told that complementary transactions are always useful and desired, where cross transaction is not useful and not desired. Ulterior transaction is also useful when it is used meaningfully and judiciously. So, based on this transaction, when the transactions are done in a meaningful way, in a positive way and in a psychological way, he is telling that those are called as psychological games. So, these games we play between our people in our family, in our office. So, I am not going into much details about it, but this is basically a level of intimate interactions and friendship what we do through the psychological interactions. Sixth is the intimacy, which we where we spend our time with our family members and the people who are very much closer to us in a very intimate way. So, this is also very important affairs where we spend our time. So, if you see these 6 categories of time structuring given by Eric Berne, where basically activity, this is the stage 4, which is basically the activity and the job situation where we spend most time, and rituals and pastimes are basically the discussions and the no outcome, where games and intimacy, these are spent in the family matters mostly, right. So, based on this time structuring, this is one way to see the time structuring, but truly speaking, if I ask you that can you segregate your 24 hours time into various types of segment, definitely you are going to structure time in terms of the office, transportation, spending time with your children, spending time with your parents, or spending time with your friends, or traveling or sleeping, or spending time with yourself. So, those kind of time structuring is also possible, but definitely that has a definite interaction or relation with this kind of time structuring. So, this approach by Dr. Eric Berne is aim to classify the time structuring based on the intimacy level and the activity level. After that, if I ask you that after making the time structuring, how you prioritize the time or the activity. Now, some of you will tell that okay, I prioritize based on my urgency, I prioritize based on my importance in terms of my promotions or any other official or professional upliftment, like that. Now, here in this context, I would like to share another matrix which will definitely help you for prioritizing your time and activity. So, in this, as per this matrix, 2 very important parameter is presented. One is your urgent activity and not urgent activity. And another 2 influencer is your important activity, which definitely matters to your life, and not important activity. American scholar Stephen Covey basically proposed this kind of matrix, where he tried to distribute the time and activity based on the urgent, not urgent matrix, and important, not important matrix. Now, urgent activity is those which comes without any longer notice, which comes with a shorter notice, but with a seemingly more requirement or more action in a shorter period of time, that is urgency. Not urgent activities do not come to you as a urgent work, but those may be important. At the same time, important activities are those which definitely matters to you for your growth, personal growth, family growth, and professional growth. Not important activities could be urgent, but those are those do not really matter much in terms of your growth or your organizational growth or the family growth or the growth of your society. Now, let us see this matrix in a better manner with an example. So, in this you can see this example. This is, in this example we have divided based on the urgent, not urgent, important and not important parameters, 4 quadrant. In the quadrant 1 basically it is the urgent and important. Quadrant 2 is basically not urgent but important. Quadrant 3, it is not important but urgent, and quadrant 4, it is at the same time not urgent and also not important. Now, if I ask you that which quadrant you will make, you will prioritize like number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, you can take few couple of seconds and think about it. Some of you will tell that okay, number quadrant 1, which is basically urgent and important, could be number my first priority. Some of you could tell that okay, quadrant 2 is my first priority. Some of you could tell that quadrant 3 because it is very much urgent, may not be important but very much urgent. But see the examples like in quadrant 1, which is urgent but not but urgent and important. For example, crisis situation, pressing problems, deadline driven projects. In quadrant 2, basically this is not urgent but important, which matters to your life, relationship building, finding new opportunities, long term planning, preventive activities related to your health, profession, everything, personal growth in terms of knowledge, in terms of your health, everything, and recreational, your individual recreation and the family recreation. So, for this kind of activities you do not get notice from your office, definitely you have to plan for it. In the quadrant 3, basically these are not important but which comes to you as an urgency, like interruptions due to emails, calls, meetings, etc. Some popular activities and events, proximate and pressing matters which comes to you as an urgency but which is really not important. In quadrant 4 also there are some works which are neither urgent neither important, like very busy work, keeping yourself busy without any actual outcome. Some time wasters like frequent calls or some visitors which can come and waste your time for unnecessary discussion, some calls and emails, and some other pleasant activities which does not have any final outcome. Now, here the first priority should be given to the quadrant 2, basically which is not urgent but, so this should be your first one which you should give priority and plan for it, because ultimately the activities in the quadrant 2 which is going to give you the personal growth and the family growth, and some significant amount of time should be used in every day on an average. There could be some days that you are busy with the crisis situation, you are busy with some time wasters because of the urgent situation, but all this work should not make the quadrant 2 work as a second priority or third priority in a continuous basis, right. So, quadrant 2 is basically the first level of your priority which you should plan and do. Then the quadrant 1 also you have to do, because these are necessity, sometimes these are very much necessity in official work or family work, so you have to do. Then if you have time, sometimes because of the urgency, even if it is not important, you might have to do, but do and or you can delegate, and but it definitely you should avoid the quadrant 4 work which neither have urgency neither have any importance. So, please keep this matrix which is very important in your mind before you segregate your time and allocate your time for the activities. Now, the scholars also they have given a very important names of this quadrant. So, quadrant 1 is basically necessity, your key action will be to manage. So, here the key word is necessity and manage. The quadrant 2 is basically quality and personal leadership or the growth, and here your action should be focus and plan. Quadrant 3 is basically deception, which is not fruitful or not outcome based. So, here your key action should be use caution or avoid or delegate. And quadrant 4, it is a waste of time, so you should really avoid it. absolutely you should avoid all this type of work. Now, I have made another matrix for the city manager, the what kind of jobs are important involved in the quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3 and 4. So, in the quadrant 1 I have listed, so quadrant 1, 2, 3 and 4. Just have a look that in the quadrant 1 you might get some mayor chairperson's immediate task and job which is important and urgent, sending ministries responses like utilization certificate, some project report etc. Some DPR has to be submitted, some report to the funding agency has to be submitted, these are urgent and important both. Sending funding agencies responses, sometimes funding agency they ask for immediate responses within 1 day or within few hours. Facing crisis situations like urban flooding, accident, these are important and urgent which will not come to you with a prior information. At the same time, not urgent activities are like making authenticate project proposal. You should not make project proposal hurriedly, you should make project proposal and document with absolute care and attention, because ultimately you are going to use public money. So, this is much more important. Second is the documentation of the practice and dissemination. We rarely do it. We do a project and after the finish of the project we just switch over the another project, and whenever in future we do another similar project we do not get any reference, and this is a common practice. But after the end of the project there should be some amount of documentation and dissemination so that we can learn from each other. Industry academia interaction is very important aspect which is much popular in western countries, and slowly it is coming up in India. For urban governance and development, if you see that those who are working as a city manager in the urban local governance or other similar organizations, you can also tie up with the industries who are working in the urban sector, academias who are working as research institutions like IITs, NITs, SPAs or any international agencies. That is a kind of a investment of time and effort which will give you personal and organizational benefit for the long time. Then making collaborations and institutional relations, professional and personal growth through refresher courses and other trainings. NPTEL course, these modalities of the NPTEL course itself is a great opportunity for the professionals who are working or the academicians who are working, which is not urgent, but you can do at your own time. So, therefore, these are set of non-urgent quadrant 2 job which you should give real importance and spend significant time, at least 5 to 6 hours of time every day. Third, that sometimes we spend excessive time in calls and emails, and some urgent paper works could be there in the municipalities where you are working, because some of the municipalities still they follow the paperwork and the hard copy based approval procedures. So, for them some urgent but not important tasks could be involved in the paperwork which you cannot avoid, but definitely you can delegate if you have the manpower. The not urgent and not important activities are like some attending unwanted call from vendors, contractor or any people, because urban local bodies are basically public institution, people's representatives are there, lot of vendors, lot of public organizations, people organization, community based organizations, NGOs are involved. So, avoid unwanted calls which will not benefit your work or your project. Then discussions on unnecessary on the politics, because definitely some political executives will be there in the top of your organization, but you should avoid discussion on the politics in the office. These are all quadrant 4 jobs. Spending work time on personal social medias, that is also time waster, and unwanted suggestions and advice also you should avoid, which comes in the quadrant 4. Now, based on this, I hope you got some idea that what are the priorities and how to segregate them and prioritize them. Then I just give few tips how to practice and follow up. So, what you can do, you can maintain you can maintain the priority and maintain a diary also for the time structuring and priority. Right. Then personal discipline is very important if you want to maintain your priority. maintain a to do list. You, for the official purpose, whenever you are working, definitely you can make a to do list, but to do list should not include each and every activity what you are doing. To do list should involve your activity based on outcome or deliverable, that is important, deliverables, and you can make a hourly or daily list of activity, whatever helps you or suitable for you, you can try that. Then manage meetings and messages. This is very important in official situation. There are unnecessary meetings and very long meeting, and the message and communications which take lot of time in quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. So, I will talk about this, the how to manage meetings and messages, so that it does not take valuable your valuable time and causing you spending less time in your quadrant 2, which is important. Then reflect and revise whatever you are doing. You are maintaining a diary, you are discussing with your friends. So, every day or every regular interval you reflect that, are you following the quadrant 2 activity, are you avoiding quadrant 4 activities, are you delegating or avoiding quadrant 3 activity, something like that, and if required you revise your plan, you revise your time structuring and priority. Now, I tell you, and also you can share and learn from the experiences. Everything you do not have to create from the scratch or from the new. There are people who have experienced and who have done the similar work what you have done. So, you should not be hesitating to learn from all those experienced person, and whenever you share, you achieve some experience, you share it with your team member and share it with your friends. Now, I spend some tips that how you can manage meetings. Now, in the manage meetings, the meetings takes a lot of time. Now, a meeting should have a specific agenda that is distributed as per the time. You should have a solid time frame and a very specific time frame, so that you can take the preparation, or also you can convey to the team members. Then get organized before the meeting. I have seen that in the meetings, people who are organizing or conducting the meeting, they are not organized about the papers. So, when they have called people for the meeting, in front of them during the running of the meeting, they are organizing their paper, they are sending the paper for photocopy, they are asking for multiple copy, they are asking for some clarification. This is not accepted. So, whenever you conduct a meeting at your workplace, you should be equipped with all the papers, relevant orders, notification, and the list of agendas in front of the team member who are attending the meeting, because your time and the team members' time both are precious. Have a checklist of things that need to be done in the meeting, and if you conduct a meeting, do not forget that you will speak less, and the objective of the meeting is that a joint decision making, where you let others to speak about some subject, share their ideas, so that you get more ideas and come to a consensus or joint decisions. So, in this regard, I have seen that people who are organizing meeting, they are speaking for 80% of the meeting time and 20% is distributed to team member. It should be reversed. You should speak about 10 to 20% and let others will speak about 80 to 90%, and whenever they will speak something which is not relevant to the meeting agenda, you have the power, you have the authority to bring them on track, so that the meeting agenda is maintained as per the time limit. So, that is how you can manage the meeting in a careful way, in a meaningful way, to manage the time. Have the right people present. So, in the meeting, if you see that the persons who are positive and who can definitely give the value of your time, they are not present, definitely you have to think about some alternative dates. So, try to get people in the meeting who are right, who will give the value of your time and the agenda. Control the agenda and the meeting, definitely I have discussed this, and avoid unproductive meetings and the time. So, you have the authority to make the unproductive meetings and time from the unproductive to productive meetings. Now, I also discuss something about how to manage the messages. Now, in most of the days we receive lot of messages from voice, from phone calls, from emails, everything, and we also respond to those. Now it takes a lot of time from everyday's schedule. Now how to manage those? Now for the phone and voice call, definitely you have to check messages in the beginning, so that you can prioritize, get the most important ones done, remaining you can take later on. Set aside specific times to return calls. Sometimes you can make some regular return calls in the evening, especially those who are working in the urban local bodies and who has the public interface, because people are coming. You can make a kind of a specific time limit or time duration where people will be able to come, and make it clear in the citizens charter or the public media, so that you also know that that time is given for the phone or the interaction with the people, and remaining time is your own official time, like that. And you can screen other calls, as I told earlier, that you can avoid the calls from the unwanted vendors or other people which does not have any outcome. Do not answer every call on office phone. So yes, definitely you should avoid all those kind of phones. For the email and faxes, check messages early, the preferably in the morning, and decide the action. If email needs any action, you can reply. You can, if you are supposed to make any supposed to send any report, definitely you have to instruct your team member to do that and inform the senders that yes, we are doing the action, something like that. So whatever is the action, you should respond to that early, so that the other person, in the other hand, the senders, they are aware about the actions. And in the beginning I told you that the expectation from the various agencies and people are much more and complex in today's job situation. Therefore your email communication should be very short and fast and faster. Delete anything that is not a message. Definitely there are many more promotional messages, you should delete it. Unsubscribe, you can unsubscribe also all those kind of mails, and do not copy everyone in a group. Whoever is the relevant person for that particular email communication, you should mark the email only to those persons only. I have seen that in official communication, people sometimes mark unnecessarily to various people and bringing the complexity in official communication. Then sometimes you can talk with the people when email will not work. Suppose you are going to a meeting and some other person will accompany you and you are waiting for him, definitely you should make a call instead of making a email communication. So those are few tips which will basically give you some effective principle for managing phone calls and voice calls, emails, faxes, and also managing the meeting. So with this, I hope that you got some ideas to manage your time. So you can use time efficiently. These are some kind of summarized checklist. So you can plan it and stick it to it. Be flexible. You have to, as I told earlier, that make a plan, and at regular interval you reflect and revise it. Make time for yourself. It is very important that you keep time for yourself, because keeping time yourself will not only revitalize you, also give you some time to think and plan for your further time structuring and time management, and learn to juggle between the time structuring from one sector to another sector. And if you cannot do something, always ask for help from the experienced person. I told you that always you have to ask from the experienced person, because there are people who have done the similar job earlier with much more effectiveness. And the wasted time should be avoided, and you should take the advantage of wasted time, so that you can convert the wasted time to a productive time. So with this, I would like to conclude today's discussion. Today, let me summarize quickly. Today we discussed the time management. In the time management, the first job is to identify the structuring, the classification of the time, how we classify or use our time. Sometimes generally we classify our time in terms of the office, family, social, friends, etc. Dr. Eric Berne, who propagated the theory of transactional analysis, which we discussed in the communication skill, he propagated that we structure time in terms of the intimacy and activity, based on the withdrawal, based on the intimacy, activity, the rituals and the pastimes. So based on that, you can divide your time for 24 hours, and for giving the priority, we have discussed the model of the time matrix given by Stephen Covey. And in this matrix, we have seen that there are 4 quadrants based on the urgency, not urgency, and important and not important. And we have seen the quadrant 2, which is giving the important job but not urgent, which is much more important for your growth and your personal growth and the official and the professional growth. So, after that we also discussed that what is your time management schedule, time management actions, where you can reduce the time in the quadrant 3 and quadrant 4 and enhance time more on quadrant 2, and also you have to do the quadrant 1 job. And then we discussed some useful tips or the principles to manage the meetings and manage the messages, so that it can help you practically in your job situation to manage the time. So, my request will be that after the discussion, if you have got some time, you try to apply it and make a regular journal and documentation, and after some time you can revisit and then check and revise your time management principle and structure. Next we are going to discuss stress management, which is also linked with time management. In official level, whenever we are working, we generate stress, and because of the stresses our performance influenced. So, that is what we are going to discuss in the next lecture. So, with this I thank you very much for attending this lecture. Thank you.